presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app, and also at jbandgoldwatershow.com. Across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line, and it is open, and it's available for all of you to comment, just like many of you do. You also do that on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you follow us on social media. You can pop us a note, and as you've probably all figured out, Darren puts them up on the screen and makes it a part of what we'll discuss. Today, it's a three-guest day here on our program. At 12:30, Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. We'll get to baseball with him, but he, like many others, probably will have something to say about this report that is referencing Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC in the future. So we'll get to all that with him. We do have Scott Glaze coming up at 1:30 today on golf. The Open Championship completed last weekend. And to lead off the 1 o'clock hour today, Roger Hoover with the Crimson Tide Sports Network over in Tuscaloosa. He's been at Media Days all week. We will talk to Roger certainly about Alabama football, but also everything else that's happened at SEC Media Days. And, of course, we'll get into some of this Oklahoma, Texas stuff with him. We got some baseball to get to in just a little bit, but certainly, Darren, a lot of football is on the agenda.
I'd like to thank the Houston Chronicle for giving us a lot to talk about today, and for a couple of days, if not weeks right now, right? Because Texas and Oklahoma, this is not, I don't think, a shock to anybody. It's just how it came out and when it came out, sort of out of the blue. There have been rumblings that Texas hasn't been happy for a while, but just to drop this bomb, right? I mean, it's talking season. We get that. But this is like a bomb that you just drop in the middle of the biggest talking season, talking point at the SEC Media Day. And there's some legs to it. So there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, there is. Obviously, a bunch of legal stuff to get into. There's a grant of rights, which basically means that TV rights are owned by certain networks until in a certain period of time. And that, from what I understand, doesn't matter what league you're in. Like if you're Texas or Oklahoma, guess what? Due to that grant of rights, Fox still has rights to your ball games. So there are just things that are out there that I can't even speak from the legal side, but we will speak from the interest side because interest means something different on multiple levels. Before we get there, though, Darren, I do want to make sure that we get this out, and this is something that we'll probably continue to push and promote. We did it last year as well. It's the Charleston Baseball Hall of Fame. Every year, a couple of members are voted into this wonderful fraternity. There are spectacular names. If you just getting good on Google and go look up the Charleston Baseball Hall of Fame, it is just littered with incredible baseball people. This year, the list is no different from most. The names on it are incredible. Chip Cannon, one of the best players we ever saw at the Citadel. Bo Parks, probably one of the best baseball players in the history of the state of South Carolina, out of Summerville, and many others. And then there's one, and I'll just be very honest, that's near and dear to my heart, and it would be a great honor to him for you to give him your vote, and that's Ralph Sibiteri. Former head coach at both Baptist College and at the College of Charleston. He is eligible to be voted in, and I know that I don't actually, you know what, Darren, I don't know that people would understand what it would mean to him to be a Charleston Baseball Hall of Famer. I don't think there's enough words to describe. Anybody that heard Ralph on this show a few weeks ago,
yep.
You know, it would be something. It would be something. So if you
I can't believe he's not in yet. It's almost an oversight that he's not in yet. The fact that he's on the ballot even surprises me. I just assumed he's in there already.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer, you know. I mean, and at the end of the day, if he doesn't get voted in for some off the wall reason, he's still a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people that'll tell you that, and there's a lot of people that matter that would tell you that, like Monty Lee. So if you head to riverdogs.com, you can check out Gene Sapikoff's column about this in the Post and Courier, or postcourier.com. There's links all over the place. You just Google Charleston Baseball Hall of Fame. You'll get a link to it. I think you can vote up to 5 times. And I personally would appreciate that. But more than anything, the Cibiteris that would mean something. So, all right, let's get to football. Darren, it's amazing, right? Here we are in the middle of SEC Media Days. Eli Drinkwitz had a great morning. He's Spurrier-esque, guys. I know everybody thinks that it's Lane Kiffin or somebody. It's Eli, because he just kind of says what he wants. So we'll get to some of that in a little bit, but it's SEC Media Days. You got the ACC media kickoff going on as well. Dabo meeting with the media. He's going to stand at the podium today. I'm not sure exactly what we'll learn that we haven't already learned at the Clemson media outing just a couple of days ago, but we'll keep our eyes on that. But obviously, the story in the country that has hijacked the SEC's grand entrance into college football every year in Hoover is the one of Oklahoma and Texas. So here's what I've been seeing. I know you're seeing the same thing. All right. Everybody has an opinion as to why they should or shouldn't join the league. At the end of the day, there are different levels of interest in a scenario like this, or those that are similar to this. Okay. So the SEC itself is about protecting its interest. Okay. The league is about protecting its interest. It's not in the best interest of the SEC to have Oklahoma and Texas join another league. Okay. Right now, it is what we are what we are at this point in time. But if they were to move, it would not be in the best interest of the SEC to see those two programs jump into a competing league like the ACC or the Big Ten or something like that. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm saying that is going to happen, but we don't know what we don't know. We never do. And so if there are reports out there that, this would be the desired location, as was worded in one report, that means that they desire to be in the SEC if they're moving, but if they can't get in, they'll probably look at other options. And so if you're Greg Sankey and you're the leadership in the league, and you understand that, okay, their movement is very possible, probably maybe when the college football playoff commences or exaggerates itself to 12 teams, when TV contracts run up, things like that. There's a lot of big timelines down the road, Darren, as you know. And I know I'm being long-winded, but I'm going to get this out, and then I'm going to let you take it from there. If those things are in play, you have to protect the interest of your league and the future interest of your league, okay? So you have that. You have individual school interests or institutional interests. You have the sports interest itself, and then you have the fans' interest, right? We don't have a college football commissioner, so there isn't somebody at the top of this thing who is looking out for the best interest overall of the sport. We have major leagues that are looking out for their own interests. Fan interest doesn't matter on this level. We might think it does, and we might hope it does, but it doesn't. Not yet, at least. So everybody's kind of fighting for themselves. And obviously something that goes into interest is money. And that's always been the case. Is it going to bring money? Of course it is. But equally offsetting is the SEC wouldn't lose that money to a competing league that would in return compete with the SEC. You see what I'm saying here? Like, who competes with Clemson? Nobody. Clemson is Clemson at the top of the ACC. Now, there's teams that are desiring to be there, but Alabama is the team in the SEC, but they ain't the only blue blood in the barn, right? LSU just won the national championship 2 years ago. Okay, Georgia's right there. A&M knocked on the door last year. I mean, they're all there, okay? So if you're South Carolina or if you're Missouri or if you are Arkansas or something like that, a team that's looking to take the next step in this league, from a fan's perspective, you're probably saying, yeah, I don't know that I want to see these guys on the schedule every year. The league doesn't care about that. The league has to look out for the league, and it can only get stronger with these programs if things work out. So you have to look at different levels of interest, I think, when you examine this type of situation, similar to if Notre Dame were to join the ACC, whose interest supersedes what. Mm-hmm. There's so much conversation to be had. At the end of the day, guys like you and I can have fun with what it may look like, I think, based on the graphic you just popped up and others that are floating around out there.
So here's the thing. If they do move, there aren't many options of, oh, God, there's this super league that is now competing with the SEC. If both of these move together, Texas and Oklahoma, and they go to the ACC, that certainly ups the profile of the ACC. Outside of that, is the Pac-12 that dangerous? No, because they already explored that idea, and they've got their own issues. That's not really in play. Right. The Big Ten shouldn't really be in play because geographically it makes absolutely zero sense. The only thing that can really compete with the SEC right now is if the Big 12 were to strengthen. This would be the opposite. This would decimate the Big 12. If you lose, you just mentioned blue blood in the SEC, you lose Texas and Oklahoma, and you got a problem if you're the Big 12. A big-time problem if you're the Big 12. There are many issues. You laid out a lot of them. Some of them are money. If it's money issues and contractual issues, all of those things can be figured out. All of those things you can move past. If this is something that the parties want to happen, the parties will make this happen. The interesting thing is we don't know a whole lot about Oklahoma's interest here, how much they're tied in. Most of the sourcing has been on the Texas side of things, and then on the, well, from what we're hearing, and this is multiple outlets, right? The Athletic, CBS Sports, the Houston Chronicle, who broke this. There's mutual interest on both sides, and that's really all we're hearing from Oklahoma's side of things. But we've been hearing for a while that, one, Texas isn't happy. Two, they and Oklahoma have both pushed off ventures to extend. You mentioned the media rights deals. There have been talks of, hey, maybe this can happen sooner. Fox hasn't been so interested in that. Neither have Texas and Oklahoma, so that hasn't happened. And there's been talks of these super conferences. And if this does happen, it's the first step to, and maybe rapid step, to having this whole breakaway and these super conferences and even more division amongst the haves and the have-nots in college football.
Bingo. The super conference scenario and conversation is a huge part of this. But again, I've seen it all day and all last night on social media, and there's so many times I've just wanted to comment and tell people that literally know nothing about anything to zip it. Because nobody knows what those who are in charge of each of these leagues understand or what their intentions are. Nobody knows that, but I think you just hit something right square on the head, is the super leagues. So let me pose this question. If the SEC, if there are to be, you have to have some type of Pac-12 something league. You have to. You have a whole half of the country over there of programs that need a league to play in. So that league is not going anywhere. All right. The Big Ten isn't going anywhere. The SEC isn't going anywhere. And the ACC isn't going anywhere. The league that has been picked on and picked apart, as we know over the years, is the Big 12, which I think is very unfortunate for the history of the sport. But it is what it is. I mean, you look at Missouri and A&M, and there are so many other conversations. Nebraska. I mean, we could keep talking about this. So if any league is to dissolve, it's the Big 12 of the Power 5 leagues. So think about it this way. If that is a conversation that is being had behind closed doors, these commissioners, these presidents, the people whom we pretty much understand to be in charge of the sport know maybe what the future looks like the next 4 or 5 years of college athletics. Don't you want to be first in line to get Oklahoma and Texas? I mean, if you're left scraping the bottom of the Big 12 barrel, and let's all understand this, all sports would be involved, but the revenue driver is football, period. The end. I know Kansas has a hell of a basketball program, but football drives the revenue at every sport. TV markets, you name it. It's football. Maybe not at Kansas, but the rest of the league.
Kansas basketball will be fine. They could be independent. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
But when you have to recruit a school with its entire athletics department coming with it, Kansas unfortunately isn't at the top of the list. Basketball is fantastic, but football is horrible, and baseball is not good. So my point is, if you're going to get in front of something like this, if you have the wink, wink, it's coming, you better get in front of it. And you have to, because if you're the SEC, you don't want to be going, well, I tell you what, do we take Texas Tech or Kansas State? You don't want that. You want to be the leader in this conversation. You go get the big dogs, and then you let everybody else fight. And I hate to say it this way, but fight for the scraps. It'd be the same thing as if the SEC was dissolving. Everybody would want Alabama and LSU and Georgia and Florida and probably Texas A&M, and then they'd be fighting. Everybody else would be fighting for the scraps of the league, basically. You see what I'm saying? So, that's not to disparage anybody. It just is what it is based on revenue and based on TV markets and things of that nature. And you got to be in front of it or you're behind it. It continues to evolve, and it'll stay this way for a while. It'll probably always stay this way.
Some important, I guess, steps to keep in mind. Number one, the financials that we've referenced. We're not going to get into and bore everyone about them. Number two, how easy is this to happen? The SEC needs 11 of 14 votes to say yes. So essentially, you need 4 schools to say no to prevent this from happening. Texas A&M is going to say no. Their athletic director, and I've popped this up a couple different times, some of his thoughts. One of them, we want to be the only SEC program in the state of Texas. The other one saying, there's a reason we left the Big 12. It's our identity. We want to stand alone. Texas A&M is not a big fan of this. Interesting that the story drops on the day A&M is talking at the SEC Media Day. The other program mentioned to not think so highly of this is Missouri. So you got 2. If you're assuming Missouri's 2, I'm interested to talk to Roger Hoover today, which we'll do in about an hour at the top of the 1 o'clock hour. Does Alabama, who has controlled this league with other very good programs, but they've controlled this league now for a while, do they want Texas and Oklahoma in this league? Do they say yes to that? It's possible because Nick Saban doesn't back down from anything, but it's not a guarantee. That's 3. Is there one other school out there? So that to me is a question. I think all of it's a workable hurdle. I think if Texas and Oklahoma really want to go to the SEC, I think they're going to be in the SEC. And I think they're going to be there sooner than we think if they both want that, because I think the SEC would wrap their arms around them and they'd convince whoever needs convincing that this is going to happen, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody can flex the muscle, it's the league of the SEC, and you'll come in on their terms. Period. I don't care that Texas is Texas. Let me correct Swamp Fox 6 here. That is not what that reporter stated. It is not done, and an announcement is not going to be made within 2 weeks. That is speculative, and he is reporting based on intel that he has, but nothing is done, and there is nothing of an announcement that is expected within 2 weeks. Not to be crude or for that to come off, or bad or anything like that. But go back and read the report.
Yeah, it's important to be right. And so there was something in there that mentioned it's possible we'll hear something in a couple of weeks.
Right.
There is nothing that is done. In fact, in one of the reports, I think this was Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports that I was reading. And I know we've questioned some of the things he said before.
Well, he's good with these things.
Yeah.
I give him a lot of credit when it comes to covering these type of things in the sport, but he's missed on a couple of local notes for us.
So one of them, and this included a link to a previous article, when Texas was flirting with the Pac-12 and whether or not Oklahoma was really involved in that or not, it was close, like within 30 minutes type close. So until this is done, nothing is done. But if the SEC wants it to happen, and if Texas and Oklahoma want this to happen, you can bet, and I certainly would, there's probably going to be a prop bet up soon that it's going to happen.
I would agree with that, Darren, and obviously based on Greg Sankey's non-committal to literally anything to discuss this. Also, Dennis Dodd has just tweeted from CBS, Big 12 ADs and CEOs, basically presidents, will meet at 5 o'clock today. I'm not sure 5 o'clock which time zone, to discuss the Texas-Oklahoma situation. So it does all appear that this is literally
moving.
And nobody else in the Big 12 had any idea about this. I mean, this has really, really been kept under wraps. And again, the commissioner has totally shied away from any type of conversation. It's been pretty much no comment every time he's been asked, which tells you that, the wheels are spinning. And they probably are working on how to present this to first the institutions within the league, and then second to both leagues, and then secondly to the media and the public. Let me go back to something you said a minute ago, though, about who could be dissenting votes in a situation like this. So I would be very curious about Florida, South Carolina, and Georgia, and here's why: because it's not a written rule. But it is an unwritten rule in the league, and it's long been known that these schools protect each other if it would ever come to accepting Clemson, Georgia Tech, or Florida State into the SEC. I know that there are some people out there that think that that's not true. That's wrong. That is true. It's not a written rule. Again, it's an unwritten rule of you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. We all want to be the only programs in this league in our respective states. And so I guess my question with that would be, would Texas A&M say, you know what, I really need y'all right now, and at some point in time, you're probably going to need us too. So now's the time for you to step up and back us because we don't want this. On the playful side of things, would it be good for the league? Yeah. I think though that this would make a 12-team playoff absolutely inevitable because, I mean, Darren, you realistically would look at the Southeastern Conference and say there's a good chance that a third of the playoff teams every year are going to be from that league, and there's a pretty good chance that maybe half of them will be. I mean,
the other thing that could happen, okay, just go down this road just one step further. If Texas and Oklahoma jump and the Big 12 is in massive trouble, that would be a fact. It would be in massive trouble. Then more realignment is coming. If these super conference things that have been long discussed and rumored, if that's the start of this, then what do the playoffs even look like? why is the group of 5 even included? If you've got these massive super conferences,
That's right.
and the gap is going to be so big, then a lot of this has to be reworked because it's not the same playing field. And then you throw in NIL. Okay, you got a whole other ball game that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
If you've got these massive conferences that are taking the best from the Big 12 and that conference then kind of sinks away, see what happens with the Pac-12, right? And you got this big old SEC and this big old ACC and Big 10. They'll be adding some teams from other leagues like UCF could easily end up jumping somewhere if this scenario plays out. Then what happens to the playoffs? Because I don't want a group of 5 team in that. Memphis isn't going to compete with that.
Let me ask you a question. When the 12 team, that original proposal came out, what, a month ago or 6 weeks ago, somewhere in there?
Yeah, ish.
What were the specifics?
It was
Who are the top 4 seeds?
the top 4 seeds are conference champs. So you got to be a conference champ. That's why Notre Dame couldn't be a top 4 seed.
Right.
And then just based on the rankings. So your conference
but,
based on the rankings, those are your top 4.
But stop there. You see where I'm going with this? My little conspiracy theory here?
They know about it already.
What if there's only 4 leagues? And what if Notre Dame's in one of those 4 leagues?
In Notre Dame because an interesting proposition. What if this doesn't happen? What if Texas and the SEC can't come to an agreement and Texas says, you know what? I'm done with the Big 12. We're going independent too.
Yeah, I don't think that happens.
No, me either.
But I think if you actually go back, if you go look at the playoff, who's to say that this whole thing wasn't in cahoots? None of us understood this. Well, why can't Notre Dame be a top 4 seed? That doesn't make any sense. Well, why are the top 4 seeds, but there's 5 Power 5 leagues, and you have to be a conference champion? Now, wait a second here. What if this is domino 1 of 4 super leagues in the future? And I'm not saying that that's true or not. I'm just saying it could be very possible that that's where this goes. And, and then you leave, those 5 through 12 up to whoever gets in. But at the end of the day, if you're a champion of a super league, you're a top 4 seed. And none of us even dreamt about that until all of a sudden the wheels started spinning a little bit with yesterday's news.
Mm-hmm. And then to the playoff, there are a lot of questions because we don't have very many answers at all. We have everyone saying we're not talking right now, including Texas, Oklahoma, and the commissioners of the 2 conferences. So nobody's talking really except for A&M's AD, who clearly does not want this to happen. So we don't know anything. We know that the wheels are in motion, but we don't know what direction they're going. We know there's this meeting later today, so we know it's going to be discussed, but how far along is this? Maybe we do learn a lot more this afternoon than we think we're going to learn, and then maybe we can have more, I guess, informed discussions about what if. But right now, it's fun to play the game because the what if game of these conglomerates, right? You can use that word in media. These, I guess it'd be the wrong thing in conferences, but these super leagues everywhere, maybe Notre Dame is forced. I mean, you got a tie with the ACC. You got a regional tie with the Big 10. If the SEC goes to 16, other leagues will have to react. They'll have to. Then what happens? So realignment, as annoying as it was to cover back when it happened, there's something about this part to me that has piqued my interest. Like, ooh, where's this one going to go?
You just get the sense that behind the scenes, and I know we got to run to break here, but paired with the comments we heard last week from Mark Emmert, and basically he's conceding almost, hey, look, it just might be time for the NCAA to look at, coming at this from a different angle. Just kind of, I'm kind of, paraphrasing here, essentially saying, maybe we just don't need to do some of this anymore. This might be, again, I'm speculating. This is all speculation. But this might be the power brokers of college football beginning to streamline a more constructed process, and navigating a better system for college football, and then ultimately the trickle down effect to all the other sports. I hope they're careful, because I do think that off the court there's issues, but on the court, basketball, March Madness, don't touch it. And in the college baseball tournament, in the college softball tournament, and a lot of those NCAA championships they do at different levels, swimming and diving, things like that, they're really well done. They're really, the structure of that, you can bitch and moan and argue about little things here and there and the weight room and stuff like that. Those are all fixable issues. At the end of the day, the structure's there, for those type of playoff scenarios and things like that. So I really hope that they're careful with that. But from a football perspective, yeah, we might be looking at the first step in a real structured process of just kind of totally flipping this sport over, Darren, in a way that makes a little bit more sense.
Just total chaos. But I agree. The other sports probably, it could look a little different, but the overall format won't change.
Yeah, no, I hope not. I absolutely hope not. All right, before we head to break here, it is now official from South Carolina that the Gamecocks have hired Justin Parker as their pitching coach in Columbia at South Carolina. So he'll have a press conference here soon, and we will certainly look to plug him into our program in the near future. But he is certainly a guy he's pretty good. His pitching staffs have been really good. So this is a great hire. As a matter of fact, for Mark Kingston. All right, got to hit a timeout. Cory McCartney over in Atlanta, Georgia. We'll dabble in some football with him. Obviously, got some big league stuff to get to with the Braves. Hey, man, they're right there, but so close. Well, we'll see what answers Cory has for us right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
For Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two!
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
All right, 12:34 Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Darren, JB, and Cory. Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. So you were on vacation last week. Where were you?
Hilton Head. So I was in your not too far from you guys.
Didn't even get a call, Darren. Did you get a call?
No, but the more depressing thing is I don't even have to ask if you played golf because you didn't, because you don't.
No, we played beach golf, which is a game my buddy. I'm not going to get into it, but we play beach golf, so something similar.
Sounds.
How do you play beach golf?
So
is it like a game, or is it's just golf on the beach?
No, it's kind of, we make this sort of structure out of sand, and there's solo cups involved in rolling golf balls, and I don't want to give away too much because we might be actually trying to like do something with it down the line. So, yeah, but very fun. We've been doing it for years.
If you would like some product placement pictures, you can send some, and we can use them in various locations around here.
There you go. I like it.
I think it makes me want to go to the beach. I don't even like the beach. I've grown up here my whole life. This is where I'm born and raised, and I hate the beach. Isn't that crazy? I love the boat.
Know what to say to that.
I know, but I mean, I don't, especially now with Cory, you have kids, you know how it is. They run around, and then you got to get sand out of their pants, and then it's all over the place, and then it's in your drink, and
it's a production just to get there and then get back. It is a production.
Sand in my
wait till they're teenagers, then you're not worried about sand in their pants. You're worried about but then they run off and do their own thing, and you're trying to track them down the whole day. So that's a completely different production.
Why are you going to the beach with a blanket at 8:00 at night? I don't think so. Yeah. That's
cold.
Not the way. Yeah, not July. All right. Yeah, no, that's. Oh God, I don't even want to go down that road. All right, hey Cory. Before we get to baseball, we're going to spend plenty of time on it, but and you got a column up today on Talking Chop about maybe what the Braves should be doing with the deadline approaching here. I do want to get your thoughts on this Oklahoma-Texas deal. We don't really know exactly what's going to happen. Darren and I just spent a bunch of time talking about how interest is different at different levels in college athletics, league interest, individual, school interest, fan interest, and then the interest of the sport itself, which we don't have a leader for that. So everybody's kind of looking out for their own futures. But anyways, at the end of the day, it appears that Oklahoma and Texas are at least in some sort of communication with the Southeastern Conference and potentially joining the league in the next few years. So I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're the Big 12, the rest of the Big 12, I mean, this has to feel like, the potential of the end. I mean, if you were to lose those two schools, I mean, what's the drawing power for the Big 12 from a football standpoint at that point? And then what does that mean for the SEC in terms of division alignment? I mean, what happens then? Do the easternmost West schools get pushed east? Could you imagine if Alabama and Auburn are all of a sudden in the SEC East, and you pick up Oklahoma and Texas and throw them in the SEC West? I mean, I know the only school that you could think about, at first blush, that's going to be against this whole thing is Texas A&M, because they lose that recruiting advantage against those two schools coming in the SEC currently. But the Big 12 is in trouble, and I'd love to see what this looks like in terms of realigning the SEC.
I just can't help but think, Cory, of everything that we don't know. I mean, if this is in play, then that kind of means that if this is in play, that means that the wheels are somehow spinning, that maybe not just those two teams down the road, maybe everybody's going to look to get out, as you mentioned. But I saw a report yesterday that Oklahoma and Texas, their desired landing place is the SEC. That kind of leads me to believe that if it didn't work out, that doesn't mean that they're done searching for a new home. And if that's the case, then the SEC really has no choice but to be proactive. You can't just let them move on to the ACC or the Big Ten or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but let's not also discount the possibility that Texas could go independent, right? I mean, they've got their own network. You think about what Notre Dame's doing and still having the opportunity to make what is probably going to be an expanded college football playoff. Texas has the power to do that same thing. I think Oklahoma is the one that should be a little bit more concerned about, can we get in with Texas? And then obviously Oklahoma State, they're going to fight Oklahoma through the state legislature as much as they can. So, I mean, maybe there's a scenario where you have Oklahoma State and Oklahoma voting and Texas goes independent. I mean, or do they end up in the SEC if they decide they do want to stay within a conference? I mean, there's just so many things at play here. The one thing we can almost all be as certain of at this point is they don't want to be in the Big 12, and the rest of the Big 12 is got to be feeling the pinch here. And man, just think about it. If you're Kansas and you're one of the most storied basketball programs in the country, it always boils down to football and nobody wants you. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, think about that. I mean, this is a school that, this is where Wilt Chamberlain came from, Danny Manning, and this is a team that's perpetually a Final Four contender, and they're always left out in the dark when we talk about these expansion talks.
Do you think that Texas, I brought it up, Jamie and I both agreed that, yeah, it's possible, but neither of us think it's that likely, because if this happens, right, if they go anywhere, and let's just say it's the SEC, then that's probably the start of some super conference-like things beginning. So what's the logic then of being independent if the landscape shifts that much?
If it means a clear path to the college football playoff, right? If you have an expanded playoff, and we know that Notre Dame has the ability to get there without joining itself with the conference full time, what does that mean? I mean, if you're let's say Texas is independent and you're the Pac-12, and you want to pick up those games. I mean, if you're looking at the other conferences and saying, which conference do you think would be most willing to have a Notre Dame ACC-like relationship with Texas? It's the Pac-12, right? I mean, they've already kind of done this dance in the past. I think that would be the one that would be most likely to happen. So let's say Texas does that. That's the dancing partner I think they have, and then they have an opportunity to work their way into the college football playoff, just like Notre Dame does.
So the question becomes, on behalf of those schools, is what are you in search of here? Like, what is your intent? I mean, Texas has money, Corey. They're not low on cash. They're in a league that they can win much easier, and that's not any offense to Oklahoma at all. But then going through the grind of the SEC, the question is why?
I think it's more power, right? I think if you're Texas, you're a program that, even though you haven't been, we're doing the is Texas back dance question seemingly every year at this point, right? But the brand of Texas is as big as anything in college football. And that's what continues to be in their favor no matter what. And I think that's why they're in the situation now where they're looking at this $3 billion SEC TV contract, and they're looking at the potential of that. Or do we, again, Notre Dame, path to the college football playoff, despite the fact they're not in a conference. Texas is one of the few schools that has options, and they're certainly at this point willing to see what they are.
Yeah, I mean, that there's a conspiracy theory side of me that goes back a few weeks when we got the announcement about maybe what a 12-team college football playoff would look like, and many of us asked questions as to, well, why the top 4 seeds have to be conference champions. It's going to leave one out. It doesn't guarantee a Power 5. Maybe this is the first step in 4 Power 16 leagues. Maybe Notre Dame has their eyes on potentially jumping all in with the ACC or something like that. I mean, we don't really know. I'll add this too on a different note. Texas controls the Big 12. They always have. It falls apart without Texas and Oklahoma, but Texas is the flag bearer. They ain't controlling the SEC. As big as that state is as much as they'd like to pound their chest, no sir. That happens down in Alabama, and the folks down there in Hoover there's a lot of crimson that walks around, and that's what controls the SEC. A lot of us don't like it, but it's true. So you can flex all the muscle you want to in the Big 12, and you can think you're going to walk in and do that in this league, but it's not going to happen.
I will say, though, that those in Alabama and Tuscaloosa in particular are not dummies, and they know what the draw of Texas and Alabama on the regular would mean for TV deals, for ticket sales, for merch, everything. And I will say, the fact that we're hearing about this more often with anything when power players like this are involved, we hear about it awfully late in the process. So while it may still feel like this was dropped on us, and Alabama and Oklahoma and Texas are having to come out, and make quasi statements about this scenario, this has probably been going on for a while. And, we're just now hearing about something that's probably been in the works for some time.
No, notice one thing Sankey said while totally staying away and basically not commenting. One thing Sankey did not say is that they're really happy in the SEC at 14 teams. That was never uttered yesterday at all.
Man knows what he's doing.
Oh, he's sharp. I mean, he is really he's the guy that's always 3 or 4 steps ahead of you in the card game, Corey. And you can say he's counting cards. He's just a really good card player. You know what I mean? He just knows how to do it. All right. Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. So he does know a thing or two about baseball. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well, and then get your thoughts on the U.S. women's soccer team. I'm just kidding. Braves are 2 games under 500 at 46 and 48. I want to make sure that I'm right there. 5-5 in their last 10. But you've got a column today, starting 9 with the focus on the future, and you've got some targets in there. I would really encourage folks to actually go read this column. But so let's kind of summarize. Trade deadline's coming up. What should the Braves be doing?
Well, I think they should be, I'm not say punting on the National League East, but I think I think the perception that this division is winnable is sort of the fallacy of the Braves season, right? I mean, I've kind of updated you guys along the way here on what's been going on with their playoff odds per Fangraphs. It's currently at 8% for them to make the postseason. 8% without Ronald Acuna Jr. in that lineup. And obviously you've got Freddie Freeman, you went out and got Jock Peterson. The fact that the Mets have just struggled to pull away, I think, has created this situation where Braves and Braves fans look at it and say, you know what, you can still get in. You can, but for what? I think there's the perception that you got to go out and make moves to make yourself better for 21. I say make yourself better for 2022 when you get back to something closer to full strength. Ronald Acuna Jr. is back. When you at some point in the season, hopefully get Mike Soroka back, that you're going to look a little bit more like a team that was supposed to go out and defend a division title. I think, you can get caught up in trying to improve your club now. I think Alex Anthopoulos, the general manager's moves need to be made for controllable players that can help them down the line. They did that with Jock Peterson, who has an option for 2022. I think those are the moves they need to continue to be making.
But I mean, Corey, there's a possibility that moves that some of these moves could do both, right? They could check both boxes.
Yes, but don't go out and get Chris Bryant, who, obviously he's down with a hamstring right now. Don't go out and, try to get a player, Trevor Story, somebody who's going to be a rental that you're going to get now, and you're mortgaging part of your future on getting there. Because let's say this team does make the postseason, then what? I mean, do you see this team? I mean, if you watched them the last 2 days against the Padres, do you think that this team's going to be able to take down the Padres in the postseason? Are they going to be able to take down the Dodgers? I mean, I just don't think they're built for contention right now in 2021. So I think the moves need to be reflective of that.
Did you like the Jock Peterson move? Does that fall into the window of what you're discussing?
Yeah, I was actually really high on them getting Jock Peterson over the winter. I think, certainly the relationship with Anthopoulos, they were together, when he was with the Dodgers, made a lot of sense. I thought Peterson was the kind of guy that he got caught up in those platoon situations that the Dodgers had done for so long. People question whether or not he was going to be able to hit lefties consistently. I mean, he's already homered against a lefty, this short term already with the Braves. He hadn't done that in 2 years. I mean, the guy can hit. He needs consistent playing time. So you're seeing that now with him atop the lineup trying to fill Acuna's shoes.
12:48 Thursday afternoon. Cory McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. Cory, we haven't talked to you since the draft. Evaluate the Braves draft class.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did fairly well. I mean, I think they're in a position now, where so many of the guys are graduating up, and you're in that kind of spot now where you're not getting those high end picks. You got to be a little bit, more, cautious with the kind of guys you're seeing. Sort of feel like they're becoming Wake Forest pro pipeline now at this point with another pitcher coming out of there. But I think they did well. I mean, I think we talked before about what was going to be the ramifications here for college players in this draft. We saw the Braves make a few picks there, so I think they did well. Certainly, again, though, it's going to be a long period of time because of the players they're getting to figure out, whether they're getting the impact guys that we saw in the past when they were getting Ian Andersons and Kyle Wrights and Mike Sorokas early in the draft picks.
Who was it, guys? Was it the Angels that drafted all pitchers? It was the Angels, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, and they've been a disaster in that regard for a long time. I mean, Sean Newcomb was one of their top prospects. Remember when they traded him away to the Braves to get Andrelton Simmons? At the time, he was their number 2 pitching prospect. Him and a guy named Chris Ellis were number 1. They've been in a bad way trying to develop pitchers for a long time. So to see them spend every one of their picks on pitchers, I mean, you clearly know when you've got Ohtani, what he can do offensively, you've got Trout, you've got Joe Adell. The need is very clear for the Angels going forward.
Has that ever happened before?
No, this is the first team to do. I mean, I saw some people saying, imagine if an NFL team did that, if you could potentially load up on one position, but baseball's that rare sport you can do it.
We're going to take a quarterback from at least 3 teams in every conference by the end of this draft.
Take 7 quarterbacks in a draft, or 7 punters or something like that. Yeah, we've won 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. Let's take 7 punters. We haven't kicked it well enough. Do you think that that's something that could, maybe not in its entirety? It's just it's an interesting conversation to have, because there are organizations that are loaded with arms, and they need to go, draft position guys or bats or whatever. And you do, Corey, sometimes see a lot of big league clubs do this. They'll just like a lot of college baseball teams do. They'll sign a lot of shortstops, and then they'll kind of move them around from there because they're great athletes. But they're signing them. They're signing the shortstop because they're a great athlete, but they're really signing the stick that goes with that. Is that something the Braves may look at doing one day for one reason or another?
Well, I mean, think about there's so many guys now who are two-way players, and I think we're going to see that, more teams willing to try that. Not that they're going to have the same success, but because of Ohtani, you may have guys who, have shown the ability to play more than just one position. So I think from that, and they may be listed as a starting pitcher, but I think you could see, teams taking guys who are more like versatile, options that they can potentially get multi-uses out of.
Will that get down to the college game? If that happens, does that then trickle down and we see more two-way guys at the college game? Because you see it at the high school level.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, I was actually talking to a kid, from Midwest, from Central Ohio, who's going to Marshall to play a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me that that's one of the things. He's coming in as a pitcher, but this is a kid who's showing the ability to hit with the bat. And he said, "Look, I'm been very clear with them. I want a chance to be able to show I can do it." So I think that's what you're looking at, because I mean, almost all these kids that you're going to see, they're going to go, be these high-level high school arms, have had some success. As players at the plate. I mean, it's very rare. I think you see a lot of POs at the high school level. These kids are playing multiple positions, especially on these high-level travel teams. So I think you'll see them get the chance, but can they stick? I mean, that's going to be, there's only so many guys like Brendan McKay, who, obviously was fantastic, multi-time John Olerud winner at Louisville, that can get this done at the college level, let alone what Ohtani's doing in the pros.
Yep,
absolutely. And you've got, at the collegiate level, you have some coaches like Dan McDonald, Louisville, who are absolutely okay with a guy having dual roles like that. And then you have some, and this is where a lot of them have been, but some have started to change a little bit. Monty Lee's got a guy up at Clemson that has multiple roles. But a lot of coaches over the years have said, nope, you're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it's going to be here. So we'll see how that changes. I do want to ask you about Oakland. So they voted, the Oakland City Council did on Tuesday, in favor of continuing conversations for a major development, I guess a waterfront development out there in Oakland that would keep the A's in town. I think it's somewhere around, the deal is a $12 billion deal for that development. That is not all money just for a stadium, but it would be maybe a little bit similar to Atlanta, except the Braves aren't on the coast. Where there'd be a development that goes around it, shopping and apartments and you name it, whatever. But Vegas is still in the mix as well. Is there, I don't know if you've spoken to sources or have any out there, but do you have a feel for this thing and maybe what the future of baseball does look like in the A's organization?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, I think the prospect of Oakland, of Las Vegas, and knowing that's a very real possibility. And Manfred, Rob Manfred, the commissioner, has just been, I've said this, we see baseball happening in Las Vegas. I mean, I think that just has pushed the screws here. I mean, you're talking about, a $1 billion investment for that new 35,000 capacity ballpark to be, to replace the Coliseum. Obviously, you talked about having that mixed use development. Then we talk about 3,000 housing units in there. I mean, 1.5 million square feet of office space. They want this to be basically, like you said, exactly like the Battery on the West Coast. And I think, you've seen that in Texas, where they're having that outside, Globe Life Field, where they have the whole mixed use thing. So I think, if you're Oakland, clearly you want to keep them there. It's just, can you pony up enough to keep them happy and make them, have that park that they want? But I think this is a big step in that direction. But certainly, this hurts this news hurts if you're Portland, if you're Las Vegas, if you're those cities that have really been, angling to try to be the ones that potentially could be a landing spot for the A's.
So if anybody's a historian and they like old ballparks and stuff like that, I follow a couple accounts on Twitter. They always tweet out all these old ballpark photos and stuff. And Corey, I know you're a great historian of the sport of baseball. If you just go back literally 100 years and just watch how these ballparks have evolved, right? They started putting them right in all these cities so it could be accessible. And then what they do? Oh, they started getting them out of town because they wanted the families to show up and drive their cars and be able to park and tailgate and have all this room. They didn't want it to be claustrophobic and not be able to get the people in town who are going to bring the 4 and 5 people, not just the guy that lives in the apartment down there. And now look what they're doing. They're bringing the city to the ballpark. It's like the first one, they built it in the city, then they built it outside of the city. Now they're saying, the hell with it. We're going to build our own city. It's just amazing how it's all transpired over the last literally 100 years.
Yeah, and you're seeing so many of the organizations now be hip to the point like the Braves, where it's like, no, you don't only have, not only can you have a stadium and have people, be more accessible to them, and build something around it, you can own it and you can get money off of the people that are renting an apartment just so they can be close to the stadium. You can get money off the people who are, a store owner that wants to be somewhat close to that ballpark. I think we've seen these organizations get so much smarter in terms of, maximizing their own earning potential. I think that's just going to be something you can see continue all over. I'll be interested to see how much it stretches beyond baseball, because obviously the day-to-day of baseball makes it that much more easy to pull this off. But to this point, we've not seen a lot of other sports kind of dip into that, and see if another team outside of baseball is capable of being in this situation where they're, kind of controlling the entire environment around their games.
Certainly a smart idea to improve your attendance. Baseball attendance was declining, and a lot of the Braves attendance looks great, even though there are a couple games under 500. Corey, I mean, you look back just a few years when they were in the old ballpark. Looks night and day. I know it's a smaller facility, but
give them a reason to come. Brand new restaurants, brand new bars, brand new hotels, brand new stadium. Yeah, give them a reason.
All right, before we let you run, any predictions on the even though it's already been underway for a little over a week, any predictions on your end for the second half of the Major League Baseball season?
Wow. Okay. Well, I think the Astros are going to wind up in the World Series. I don't think I would have said that before, but I can't. I mean, this team just continues to just astound me. I mean, all the stuff they've been through, and here they are. I think this is the best team in the American League.
Wow. Who's the best team in the East, Tampa or Boston?
I think it's Boston, but I said this at the beginning of the year. I didn't think they had enough pitching, but I think the fact that you took Glass out of the equation for so long for Tampa, I think, it's Boston. That offense is just elite.
Where does Kimbrel go? Boston, Atlanta? Where's he go?
I would love to see him back in Atlanta. I think that $16 million option for next year is a little scary if you're the Braves and you weren't willing to pony up for Mark Melancon, but maybe that makes them more than willing to do it this time around. I think he'd love to be back there and make a run at 400 saves in a Braves uniform. But it feels like maybe he's probably gonna, if there's a reunion, Boston might be the better option at this point.
Giants, Astros World Series. How about that? Giants have 60 wins. That's the most in baseball. Unbelievable. The West is unbelievable in the National League. It's ridiculous. And apparently, Freddie Freeman's son, his favorite player isn't even his dad. It's Fernando Tatis Jr. It's awesome.
Waving at him from the stands, and just a great relationship there. So
cool. Well, we have a great relationship with you, and we're always happy to have you on Thursdays. I think we'll probably switch that up a little bit moving forward. But nonetheless, Corey is not going anywhere. He's certainly one of the best guests we could ever dream of. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope you had a great vacation with your family, Corey, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Man. There you go, Cory McCartney over there in Hot Atlanta. It's that time of year. Hot Atlanta. That's what they call it. I heard somebody the other day. Who was it? Somebody I was with said it's a hot girl summer. I said, what the hell's a hot girl summer?
Summer's a hot girl summer.
What's hot girl summer? What is a hot girl summer?
I don't know. There's lots of them around.
Dude, I have no idea. I literally didn't know what she was talking about. Said it's hot girl summer.
I mean, maybe it's the summer for all of the really beautiful ladies to walk around. I don't know.
Does anybody out there know what hot girl summer is? If you do, please.
I like my theory.
Inform me.
I like my theory. Whatever it is, I like my theory.
Yeah, whatever. All right, we got to go. Hour 1 in the books. When we return, Roger Hoover with the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Yeah, he's in the Yellowhammer State. He'll join us. We'll talk to Bama and, believe it or not, some of this OU Texas stuff and more right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Mike Morgan here for Gamecock Traditions. Baseball is going strong. You'll want to look sharp when you cheer on your Gamecocks. Under Armour, New Era, sideline hats, all with interlocking SC Baseball logo. 18 styles of $10 tees exclusively at Gamecock Traditions. Get on that email list by going to the bottom of the page, enter your email, and always be the first to know about new items as they arrive. You can also add a little Gamecock flair with house signs, garden flags, interior and yard decorations, only at one place, Gamecock Traditions.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston, Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour, Thursday afternoon. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Make sure you've downloaded the JB and Goldwater app, and also make sure that you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, and individually at Sports Media JB, at Darren Goldwater. Always head to our website as well, jbandgoldwatershow.com. Thanks to Cory McCartney in that last segment over there in hot Atlanta, Georgia. Now we go even further west, but not all the way to Texas. No. We go to the folks that actually control the SEC. Roger Hoover with the Crimson Tide Sports Network. I don't know, where are you in Hoover or are you in T-Town? Where are you?
I'm in Tuscaloosa today at our studios. I was in Hoover all day yesterday for Alabama's appearance at SEC Media Days, but back in the home office today.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'm sure, boy, I bet sports radio in Alabama today is going to be hot and heavy with this news of Texas and Oklahoma wanting to be a part of the big boy league. Alabama's saying, yeah, y'all might have a large state, but this is still Bama's league, man. This is crazy stuff, Roger. First of all, how are you doing? How was Media Days? And boy, did it take a turn, right?
It certainly did. Yeah, I was hanging out with Marty Smith, Ryan McGee. They were taping some interviews on their Marty and McGee set, and I kind of looked at my phone while I was waiting on them to finish up an interview, and I saw the Houston Chronicle story come up. Texas and Oklahoma have contacted the SEC, kind of showed that quickly to the guys, and they were like, we got to get the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey, back in here. They were stunned by it, and it took everybody by storm yesterday, right as Jimbo Fisher was on the podium talking about what he hoped to see out of the Aggies this season. Now you've got their chief rival for so many years in the Big 12, the Texas Longhorns, who did not make the jump to the SEC back in 2012, and it looks like Texas A&M's finally kind of lived up to the vision of what we hoped A&M would be, and that's really somebody that can contend in the West, finished fourth in the country last year. Now maybe Texas is involved. Now maybe Oklahoma is involved. So still nothing official on the books yet. It's going to be a fascinating story to see how it all shakes out here in the next few weeks.
Roger, we're going to get to, actual Alabama football here in just a moment. But at the top of our program today, back in the 12 o'clock hour, Darren and I were talking about the different levels of interest in situations like these. And so if you had a commissioner of college football, Roger, as you well know here, you would have somebody who's looking out for the best interest of the sport. And would that mean that Oklahoma and Texas should be in the SEC? Is that in the best interest of the sport overall? I don't know. But we don't have that. So each league has its own interest. Each institution has its own personal interests. Fan bases have their own personal interests. The South Carolina football fan base, their interests are a little bit different from Alabama's. Alabama can beat everybody in the country. The Gamecocks can't. So everybody's got a little bit different philosophy on this. And who knows, by the way, if this is just maybe the tip of the iceberg as to what's to come with major realignment in the sport of college football, maybe coinciding with an expanded playoff. I say all that to ask you this one simple question as I've rambled on here. What are the interests of Alabama?
Mm-hmm. I think the interests of Alabama are making sure Nick Saban is healthy and is well-fed. He has his little Debbie cookies in the morning and is ready to go for the season. Because you think back to 2007 when he took this job. I mean, the SEC is dramatically different. College football is dramatically different. We've gone from the BCS to the college football playoff, and probably by the time everything's said and done for him as head coach of the Crimson Tide, we'll have a 12-team playoff. And I think it'd be interesting to see if he could win a national championship in all of those different levels. So that's one thing. I think Alabama, again, just everybody here is focused on the process, and it's amazing how name, image, and likeness had kind of been the one deal where you saw Coach Saban kind of in an iffy kind of mode where he wasn't really sure about, kind of what the future looks like with that. Now we don't even know what the SEC is going to look like in the future with this possible news about Texas and Oklahoma. So, from Alabama's perspective, it's not a situation where they have any really traditional rivals that could be coming into the league, with Texas and Oklahoma. They've beaten them during the Saban era in some very notable games, especially Coach Saban's first national championship with Alabama back in 2009. But other than that, I mean, they've just kind of been, afterthoughts. Alabama was able to beat Oklahoma in the college football playoff a few years ago. Jalen Hurts transfers to Oklahoma. That's really been about it. I mean, so they are great historical programs, but it's definitely not programs that's been on Alabama's radar too much in the recent future, because Alabama's been recruiting extremely well in Texas, even with Coach Sarkisian going from Alabama as the offensive coordinator to being the head coach of Texas. Coach Saban's still winning a lot of recruiting battles against the Texas Longhorns. And, let's be frank as well, Texas has not been nationally relevant. since they played Alabama in the Rose Bowl. They haven't won the Big 12 since then. So, all of this, a lot of people getting worried about, big bad Texas is coming in the league. I don't see that as a reality if you look at, everything that's happened in the last decade of Longhorn football.
Is that the basis of the Alabama reaction right now? Is it that, you know what, fine, here's the news, but it's our reaction very different, our being the state of Alabama, from really the national perception of this story?
I think so. It's just because, again, Alabama's got everything rolling kind of the way they want it, and you are seeing some challengers. It's not like, Alabama's the default SEC champion. We saw LSU in 2019 have such a good year. Alabama's got to prove they can win at Auburn, something they haven't done since 2015, and that's really been if you'd asked me 2 months ago, what's the big story for Alabama right now? It's like, all right, making sure we beat Auburn, take care of that, because that's been tough the last couple trips down to the Plains, and it could be tough again this year. Coach Harsin could put all of his chips towards trying to beat Alabama in his first Iron Bowl. But, Alabama's got everything kind of set the way they want it. Coach Saban's really comfortable. Their recruiting has never been better than what we've seen over the last few years. So you start talking about adding Texas and Oklahoma in the league. I think the next questions from an Alabama perspective be, okay, what does the realignment look like in the league? Are we going to get an East division, a West division, or are we going to have some of the pods like the SEC network discussed in the morning? What would that really look like? I think that'd be the next step. But, with Coach Saban still in charge and with the program still in place, I think everything will really be business as normal, even if Texas and Oklahoma do join the league. But I'm just interested to see how it all shakes out, because, again, it is so out of nowhere. We weren't really thinking about this until 3 o'clock Central yesterday. So trying to figure out the new normal, if this does happen, I think will be fascinating.
Yeah, generally when Nick Saban speaks at SEC Media Days, that is the storyline, and it was for a while yesterday until it changed with this news. Roger Hoover with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, 111 on this Thursday afternoon, Eastern time, not Alabama time. I to back up some of what you were saying there as well, Roger, I tweeted yesterday that I literally could listen to Nick Saban could come sit in this office and explain to me for the next 4 hours how that paint's going to dry, and I'd listen to it. He's a fascinating speaker. He has an unbelievable way with all of his hand motions and stuff like that, though, of making you see and think differently. No wonder he's successful. But based on what you said a minute ago, it sounds the way that Nick Saban has almost trained people to think over there. It's, hey, focus on us. If we focus on us, we don't have to worry about this. And while I mentioned interest, while the rest of the league, even though Eli Drinkwitz doesn't seem to care, but, Ole Miss or Mississippi State or a South Carolina or a Tennessee, programs like that who have been trying to figure it out. Let's just call it what it is, especially my Gamecocks. They've been losers the last couple of years, especially. Their interests are a little bit different, going, my God, we don't want to draw Oklahoma and Texas as well. We already have to play this team and this team and this team. Well, look at future schedules for Alabama. Saban has scheduled anybody anytime. I mean, he's taken the Tide to Boston College or something in 10 years. I don't even know if he'll still be there, but they've been willing to. He's got a year with Ohio State and Notre Dame or something. I don't even know who else it is, but. So he doesn't really care. I mean, they could bring the Patriots into the league, and he'd be like, well, let's just focus on Alabama and see what happens. So from an interest perspective, they're different at these institutions. But Alabama, on top of being incredibly successful, they've trained themselves to worry about themselves.
Yeah, they really have. And I think the other thing that's really fascinating to me about all of this is, where does Texas A&M kind of fit in that conversation? Because, a lot of times you hear people think about, okay, a possible realignment, possible expansion of the SEC. What are some natural programs you'd love to see? And for me, I kind of go back to some of the older programs that are in the league. All right, what if you can get Georgia Tech back? Well, we can't do that. Georgia would never say yes to it. Well, what if we could get Clemson? No, South Carolina would never allow that.
That's right.
Okay, can we get Florida State? Nope, Florida would never allow that. why do we think all of a sudden that now Texas A&M is going to live well and be okay with Texas coming into the league? That's where I kind of go back to. I think there are some other programs that maybe make a lot more sense that kind of fit the geographical footprint of the Southeastern Conference a little more, but you had that long notion of, oh, these other schools won't allow it. Now, if this does happen, how does Texas A&M feel knowing that, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, they're getting all that protection from some of their in-state rivals coming in the league? And Texas A&M has loved being the only Texas program in the SEC. They've been using that as their recruiting pitch over and over, not just in football. I saw it in basketball and baseball when I made some trips there this past year as well. So I think that's a really fascinating part of it. But yeah, like you mentioned, in Alabama, just focus on the process, focus on your job, next opponent. And we do have some really fun home and home non-conference matchups coming up, including with Texas, I believe, starting next year.
Oh, that's what it is. Is it Texas?
Nick Saban ahead of the curve again.
Yes, yeah.
Got the dude. Saban. You mentioned Texas A&M. I mean, Darren and I were mentioning this earlier. There is an unwritten rule in this league between Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina specifically, pretty much bordering states, even though Florida and South Carolina don't technically border each other.
Close enough.
It's like you scratch mine, I'll scratch yours. If Georgia Tech wants in, nope. If it, like you just said, all those scenarios. So I'd be interested to see if A&M was like, hey, look, y'all are going to need us one day. So we want in on that little fraternity you got going on there. Let's scratch some backs here because I think it's a 3/4 vote you have to have.
Yeah, I believe it's 11 of 14, and I believe they'll get to that, and I believe they wouldn't be coming public. None of this would be coming to light, I don't think, if they did have that path forward. But It is just fascinating, again, how, Texas A&M can be so bold, make such a good move when the last wave of realignment happened. It's all of a sudden, 10 years later, here comes Texas once again. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, unbelievable.
How quickly can this stuff happen? What's the feeling in Alabama? Because I really get the sense just talking to you and this confidence that flows out of Tuscaloosa, that the national perception and the national talking points and our talking points really up until this now, that it doesn't jive with exactly the way this is being framed in Alabama. Is there a sense of any type of movement? Is there a sense of any speed to this conversation down in Alabama that we're not getting elsewhere?
I'm not sure about that kind of from perspective here. I was just kind of speaking to, what would change within the Alabama program if this move was made. It certainly seems like things are moving in that direction. It kind of got that feeling when I was in Hoover yesterday for SEC Media Days. And, just the SEC, the last thing they wanted in a lot of ways was to have this come out this time. Maybe some other schools had different agendas on that. But the focus this week is on football and on the 2021 season. But if you believe what's been reported in the Houston Chronicle, I believe WFAA in Dallas had some other reporting saying, we could be seeing a lot of movement on this next week. It could happen really rapidly, and we'll see what happens with the media deals. First of all, that they're able to get out of some of their contracts, and we'll see when this could all happen. We could already have a 12-team playoff by then. There's still just so many unknowns going on with that. I was just kind of going from the Alabama perspective of, what's next for this program. You add Texas and Oklahoma in the league. All right. See him when we see him.
Right. Yeah. See in 2025. Right. Yeah. Maybe coinciding. If you go that route, we'll leave it here and then let's talk about Alabama, Roger. But if you go that route where you get to a 16-team super conference, essentially, I think if that happens, the ACC is going to have to expand. The Pac-12 is going to have to expand, and the Big Ten as well. It will essentially dissolve the Big 12. The Big Ten will have to expand. Excuse me. So if you go that route, it's going to have to coincide more than likely with an expansion of the college football playoff. That's probably going to have to happen, and I'd be interested to see what actually happens with that, or with scheduling as well in the SEC. You mentioned maybe the pods. Darren's got a little graphic he made up about what a couple of divisions would look like. If you went to pods, you probably wouldn't have to go the 9-game route. But if you stuck with divisions, Roger, I think you'd have to probably have 9 league games a year. I'd agree with that. I mean, I think it sucks the way it is now. I'm with Saban. I've been with Saban for years. Let's play as many as we can play.
Yeah. Didn't you enjoy last year? I mean, it was great. It was must watch every week. The 10-game schedule. I loved it.
When you win them all, yeah. But that's why it's not going to happen yet because other coaches aren't winning them all.
But I mean, there were a couple scary weeks, Darren. There were, the Ole Miss game and the Florida championship game. I mean, that was scary. But
over here in Columbia, it was
scary.
Don't watch every week, not must watch. It was don't.
Hey, I still keep up with my alma mater in Knoxville, so yes, I know how scary and rough it can be.
What do you think about that? Should Dan Mullen mentioned it? Heupel seems to be in favor of it. It hadn't been good for Tennessee in 15 years or something, but should crossovers exist? Permanent?
I've always liked them, and especially I know some schools it makes sense, some schools it does not make sense because who's South Carolina's? Is it A&M? Or
yeah.
And
before that, it was
matchup.
Arkansas.
Yeah, that I thought it made sense when it was Arkansas, both coming in 92. That was a little more online as kind of the new kids in the SEC. Traditionally I love, the Alabama-Tennessee matchup and also the Auburn-Georgia matchup because those are great rivalries that are on their own. But kind of with that, you've lost some rivalries along the way. Like Tennessee used to always play Ole Miss every year, always used to play Auburn. Those were always considered great games. And now you talk to a new generation of fans since 92, they have no idea that those were even rivalry, quote unquote rivalry matchups. So overall, I like it, but I'm also very old school. Like if you guys ever get me talking about my baseball opinions, they're extremely old school and kind of set in 1957. So I'm kind of that way with a lot of football stuff too. I trying to get more new school as we go along.
All right, so let's just let's talk about the Tide here. I'm not even getting into this whole NIL thing with Bryce Young, whatever. We've heard enough about it over the last few days. At some point in time, we'll either know or we won't know.
Fine. Yeah.
I don't really care how much money the guy makes. I want to know if he can play. Can he play?
Seems like he's got the arm for it. He certainly showed that in some of the games that he was able to play in late last year. The one tricky thing about looking at his film from last year, he was in there with the backup offensive line most of the time. So he wasn't getting the great protection that guys like Landon Dickerson was able to provide, Alex Leatherwood. Some of those guys that were having a tough go of it when he was in the ball game late. There will be some of the starters we may see coming up in the offensive line this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they gel together and perform better. Maybe more time and strength and conditioning can help them. But if he's got protection, he's got a very laser focused arm, throws with great velocity, sees the field pretty well from everything we've seen. So it looks like he's got all the tools to be successful. Another X factor comes in. I think we kind of had a vision of what Bryce Young could have been like in Coach Steve Sarkisian's offense. Now it's Bill O'Brien running the show on the offensive side of the ball. And even though, Coach Saban talks about the fact that Alabama has an offense, not different offensive coordinators, it does change a little bit. So I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how he is used. We'll see if he runs very much. Mac Jones didn't really run too often or escape the pocket. Bryce has a little bit more speed. Could Alabama use that to their advantage? Maybe not as much as what we saw with Jalen Hurts, but maybe a little closer to how Tua Tagovailoa played. And they're about similar height, similar build. Tua is obviously a lefty, but I think Bryce Young has a lot of confidence going into this season because he feels like the reps he had last year was kind of just enough to get his feet wet. And, if you would have interviewed me at this time last year, I went on a lot of shows and everyone kept saying, all right, we know Mac finished the 19th season, but what week do you think Bryce Young's going to take over as a starter? And I kept saying, well, I know they like Mac a lot, but that was the perception because he was such a highly touted recruit coming out of high school. Learned great for him to go full getting to Mac Jones lead Alabama's offense. And there are some very familiar targets coming back with John Mechie. He's going to be the standout wide receiver. And I think Jaleel Billingsley is going to be a great option for him at tight end. Just he quickly, dump it over the middle too, get a first down when you need to have it. He's going to have a lot of confidence, I feel like, with this offense.
Roger Hoover in Atlanta, play-by-play, one of them with the Crimson Tide Sports Network 123 on this Thursday afternoon. Yeah, it's you mentioned who was I listening to the other day? I think it was either Jordan Rogers or McElroy. I don't think it was McElroy. It was in the morning.
SEC Network.
No, it was yeah, but it was on Sirius XM in the morning, and they said the exact same thing. I think it was Jordan Rogers, and he's like, "Look, here's Saban used to be. You knew Nick Saban because his defenses gave about 8 points a game. which was unbelievable. That's gone. And if there's and it's amazing, like there are so many coaches that still think they can hang on to that. Well, we're going to win on defense around here. I think one of them used to be in Columbia. I respect him as a man a lot, but the best coach in the history of the sport is Nick Saban, and he has acknowledged, and he acknowledged it publicly just a couple of days ago, Roger, as you know, or yesterday, I guess it was. Hey, this thing's changed, and you got to score points. Period. The end. Yeah, you have to play defense, and you got to be able to play defense when you have to play defense. Like, you got to be able to stand up, make a stop. That matters. It'll always matter. But you can't win without scoring points, especially at the level that Alabama is used to being at. And they've replaced these OCs because they're great coordinators, and they get hired and they go on and do other things. And it is so fascinating to me that Steve Sarkisian, Lane Kiffin, Bill O'Brien, like, historic figures on the offensive side of the football, and yeah, they have tweaks, and yeah, they have ideas, and Saban lets them do it, whatever they want to do, but they still know when they're at Alabama, this is how we're going to play offense here. His evolvement, if that's a word, offensively is fascinating. It's maybe one of the greatest transitions to stay on top of your game that we've ever seen in college athletics.
Yeah, it really is. And to evolve, but still, maintain that identity, like I think you talked about before, to where you're not, all of a sudden playing Big 12 football where you're seeing, guys that kind of don't look the part of an SEC football player. It's still the gritty toughness that we saw in those early teams in 2009 and 2011 when they won some national championships by playing, kind of a more run-heavy offensive attack and, passing when you need to. But, he's able to get all of these athletes that could easily have played on those teams, had great success, had that toughness about them, but now are able to really extend the field. And, the way they used Devontae Smith was just art last year. Watching Devontae Smith pre-snap, the way he would just move up and down, complete on the line of scrimmage, completely confuse defenses, and be in the perfect spot. And Mac Jones, give him credit too for delivering the perfect strike to him every time he needed it. It was really fun to watch last year, and we've heard a lot of good things about Coach O'Brien and able to kind of map out a game plan very similar to Steve Sarkisian. And it's going to be the key for him is going to be, finding that creativity. That was what Sark did the best when he was Alabama's offensive coordinator. Got creative in game. If Coach O'Brien can do that, Alabama's offense is once again going to be in really good shape. And, you're kind of hinting at the defense a little bit for Alabama. This is a very good Alabama defense that we're going to see on the field. That is going to remind you of those early Saban teams, especially with these linebackers that can fly around. They can shut down the passing game because they know they're going to see some elite passing attacks throughout the year. But also when it's 3rd and 2 and you've got to get a stop on the ground, they can do that as well.
And Henry To'oTo'o, of course, transferred from Tennessee, is now part of that unit. And I want to clarify what I was saying. I think a lot, and guys, we've seen this over the years, especially in football. You always say when you hang around too long, it ends badly, right? And it's, this guy, he just hung around a little too long. I don't know that that's actually the case. I think what it is when you hang around too long, a lot of guys just don't evolve. And, I mean, you look at Saban's age, he looks younger than 69, but he just continues to evolve. Like he probably evolves more than now, I guess, age is knowledge, I guess, but he evolves more now than he would have in what we would say his prime 20 years ago. It's fascinating. I mean, Roger's really fascinating. All right. We'll leave it on this one. It's something I said, so I'll let you pick on me if you want to. If you said today, all right, go ahead and pick yourself a winner in the Southeastern Conference here, your prediction, which we're going to get media votes today, I guess, actually. I would pick Alabama to win the league. I do think if JT Daniels plays very well at Georgia, they've got a shot. But in saying all of that, I actually think Alabama has more hurdles to clear than Georgia does. They're going to have to go to Florida early in the year. Are they better in Florida? Well, yeah, they're better in Florida. I know that. But they got to go to the Swamp. They got to go to A&M. That's the one that everybody circled on October the 9th. And then, you got to go to Auburn at the end of the year. And I think those are probably the three at the top of the list, Roger. Correct me where I'm wrong. Don't forget LSU, obviously. And sometimes you just never know, what ship the Pirates going to ride in on over there in Starkville in mid-October. So, but I just, at the end of the day, they're the best team in the league, but they've also got maybe the most difficult road to travel through for the teams that are contending for the SEC championship.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that. I think it is a tough schedule for the Crimson Tide this year. You get to start off with a really good Miami team, and that's one thing we keep hearing from the players. And Coach Saban is talking about, look, week 1 against Miami. Let's not overlook. It's not like when they opened the season 2 years ago in Atlanta and faced a Duke team they knew really didn't belong in the same field as them. This Miami team can play. De'Aaron King can absolutely play at quarterback. So it really starts there with a good matchup in week 1. Like you mentioned, going to the Swamp, playing in the hottest time of the year in Florida. That is going to be a really tough game. And Alabama hasn't been there in 10 years, and that game was played at night on CBS. Now this is going to be in the heat of the day. I think that's a really fascinating matchup. And Coach Saban always likes having tough games early in the season. The trip to College Station, like you mentioned, is going to be extremely tough with what Texas A&M is bringing back. For me, the biggest game that I think Alabama's got to get through is Ole Miss. Because, like I mentioned, last year was the scariest game of the year, really, for Tide fans, was just trying to hold on that wet, rainy night in Oxford when points were being scored left and right, and it was chaos football. Alabama's got to be able to withstand all the chaos, everything that Lane Kiffin is going to throw. Forget about the kitchen sink. He's going to rip out every cabinet, every countertop, the island. He is going to throw everything at Alabama in that game. And so it's going to be really fascinating. If Alabama can get through that Ole Miss game, get a win against Tennessee, go into the bye week, rest up. They've always been so good after the bye week for the LSU matchup. And that matchup now is back in Tuscaloosa. I think that's a big advantage to Alabama, getting to host them coming up this year. And then, we see what happens later on in the season with some of the matchups you mentioned, especially that trip to Auburn, trying to win on the plane, something they have not done since 2015. And there have been some national championships since then. So it's been a while. Like, Alabama's got to go do it. That's certainly a hurdle. And then if you get to the SEC championship game, whether it's Georgia or Florida, I'm not as sold on Georgia maybe as some other people are, but I think mainly because of the Clemson game. I think if Georgia loses right out the gates Clemson, that kind of creates that shakiness for Georgia that we've seen hurt them in the past. When they all of a sudden they'll drop another one, maybe they're not supposed to. So I don't know. I think it's going to be fascinating. I really like what Florida has with Emory Jones at quarterback. Obviously, the tough part for them is they got to play Alabama and Georgia this season. So it's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be a fun season. I'm just so glad we're kind of back to a normal college football season, even though we talked about earlier, we had so much fun with the 10-game SEC schedule. It's just fascinating to get back to all of this once again, and it should be a really fun ride to Atlanta and beyond.
Gamecocks beat Auburn 40 last year. They'll do it again this year. No problem.
That's right. Yeah. But again, the last SEC East team that defeated Alabama, Gamecocks.
Yes. And my man Pat DeMarco, and I guess I'll call Steven my man too. I've known Steven a long time, but Steven and Pat, that was a hell of a day in Columbia. Ooh.
Did you guys like the Shane Beamer Arby's pick? Did that go over?
That was that's what he gets it, man.
Yeah,
he gets it. I don't know. I don't know how many wins that picture's going to get him this year. I hope it gets him 6 or 7. On top of the other ones. But that he gets. That was so cool. There were people out there. There's a new reporter who's really good in this state. He's great. He's a great reporter, but he hadn't been around long, and he had no idea until people were like, "Hey, Spurrier did that 9 years ago." Hoover. You see the comparison. That's why he's doing it.
Doesn't get any better.
It was really good. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we will have you back before the season. It's a neat outlook when you think about it, because you mentioned Georgia, Clemson, you mentioned Miami. You basically could have the 2 best teams in the ACC and the 2 best teams in the SEC going at it on the same day to open the season. So
there's the head ball coach.
There you go. It took me a while, because today was the first day I had taken that out of like the easy to use queue. So of course you bring it up and I have to go back and find it and load it in and everything. But yeah, there it is.
I doubt. I know that. Darren, I know you and I won't be the first group to talk to Shane. They'll start practice. Less than 2 weeks now. I know we won't be we'll talk to Shane, I'm sure, in a few weeks, but we won't talk to him before others do. I want to know, somebody needs to ask Shane if Spurrier saw that and called him and what he said to him. Hey, Shane, I tell you what.
At least he got a text. There's no way that
I'm
happened.
sure.
And there's no way Spurrier did not answer that.
Well, this guy, Shane, get his glasses take up too much of your face here. Yeah. I mean, he's something. Roger, you You do a great job, man. Really do. Really appreciate your time. If we can ever do anything for you, please reach out and let us know. By the way, Darren,
next time I'll come through on that thing that I was trying to do for you and not have to call out at the last second.
Oh,
me?
Good.
No,
Roger?
me. I was supposed to fill in for the baseball broadcast down here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh man, that's a long many games ago back in our fun overlap season. But no, hopefully that could work out again. Hopefully we're past all of that. So yeah, absolutely. But no, I love coming on the show, guys. I think I mentioned it last time. Like I want to retire in the Low Country. Get a nice beach house in Kiowa or something like that. So you guys are where I want to be.
Why? I hope they're paying you well.
I'm gonna figure out I am married to a doctor, so I'm getting halfway there at least. So. We'll see how the rest turns out. But no, you guys are the best. Anytime you want to talk some football, I'll be glad to do it.
Yeah, Darren, we need to put him in the in our Good Hair Club. He's up there with Yuva and Les Mitchell.
There you go, solid.
He's Darren and I have a Good Hair Club that we're not a part of, but we have our guests. We rank their haircuts. Yours is.
We rank their haircut.
It's up there, man. Yuva's
Thank
is good.
You. Yeah, it fluctuates and it grows back quickly. I'm starting to get a few grays in there, so we'll see how long I stay in. But no, I like it right now. I've recently moved to Birmingham, or I guess in February. I get my haircut in Tuscaloosa a lot, Birmingham. So I haven't found a consistent barber yet. So we'll try working on that for the fall.
Sports clips. It's just easy.
There you go.
Whoever it is, just cut it.
That's right. Thank you, Roger. I'll give you a roll tide from the Low Country. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. We'll see y'all later.
Later, brother. There you go. Roger Hoover with the Crimson Tide Sports Network. All right. Got to hit a timeout, final timeout of the afternoon. We mentioned the Good Hair Club. Didn't even bring him up. Are you kidding me? Roger, great hair. The dude that's coming up, probably the leader of that club himself, Scott Glaze, the golf pro out there at Stono Ferry. So we'll get some thoughts on the golf world with him, pass along a couple of other nuggets, and we'll send you off on a thirsty Thursday afternoon to the Dog and Duck right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike two! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$16.66 per month per thousand borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road. Okay, what's going on today, huh? Anything to talk about?
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon. Greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon. Greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard. All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon. Greetings and a good Friday afternoon, and welcome aboard. Final segment Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Save the date, Bulldog fans. Meet the Bulldogs Saturday, August the 28th from 10:30 until 12:30 down at Johnson Haygood Stadium. That ticket is the everyday low cost of free, and you can get yourself an autograph from Brent Thompson and others out there. Hopefully a turnaround of sorts this year for the Citadel, who just played about 3 months ago. But certainly looking forward to seeing the Citadel on the field August the 28th. Meet the Bulldogs 10:30 until 12:30 down at Johnson Haygood Stadium. All right, to the Good Hair Club we go. This is their leader, Scott Glaze, out there at
their leader.
It's Stone Ferry in Hollywood, South Carolina. Apparently, Brian Harsin over there at the SEC Media Days was putting everybody to sleep. So maybe that's why Auburn only has about 3 commitments, I think is what it was. Maybe that's why people are concerned about recruiting, because nobody wants to talk to the guy. I don't know. But anyways, what's up, Scotty?
What's going on, guys? Glad to be here, leader of the Good Hair Club.
Well, we just had Roger Hoover on from the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and he's got great hair. And so because I owe you a huge apology. I told Darren, I said, we need to put him in our Good Hair Club. Not that Darren and I aren't in it. Darren has horrible hair, and I do too. Sorry, Darren, but you do.
I curl the worst. They're off.
But not like Flint, though. Flint's curls work. I don't know why, but these redheaded,
probably because he's rocked them his whole life. If there's ever been a period of time in your curly life where like you're unsure and you go away from it, you just can't own it. And so like, I try, but it just doesn't work.
That's true. My hair is just not good. But we sat there and rattled off all these great, Mike Yuba and Wes Mitchell and all. And then we said, well, no, wait a second. The leader of the Good Hair Club is Scotty, and he's coming up next. I didn't even mention him to Roger. So I owe you an apology. I'm sorry about that.
It's all right. I thought my ears were burning for a reason, but no, hey, it's an honor. It's an honor. I got some gray hairs creeping in there, but better for it to turn gray than to turn loose. So
that's true. Yeah. I've got both going on here. So whatever. All right, Scott, StoneandFerryGolf.com. Want to keep reminding people this is for maybe another 5 or 6 days, right? $39 golf out at Stone and Ferry because of aeration.
Yeah, the greens are coming along nicely. We put we top dressed them with sand yesterday to get some more sand into those aeration holes. If you don't know what aeration is, we basically take a plug about yay big, every 2 inches and every 1.5 inches then sideways. So it's basically just dots all over the green. Taking these plugs out, we take out nearly 20% of the actual organic matter there, but it's really good for the greens. It's a cultural practice that has to be done every year. It allows air, it allows nutrients, it allows water to then get deep into those roots from the putting surface there, and it ultimately is going to make the greens firmer, faster, and healthier to be able to withstand traffic. I mean, we had 46,000 rounds last year in 2020. So these greens have to withstand a lot of traffic. So you have to do things like this. So it is a little frustrating to putt on. There'll be a little bumpy, a little sandy through probably next week. But because of the inconvenience of that, we offer a discounted rate. So $39 through at least the 28th. And we might extend it through next weekend, just depending on what type of shape the greens are in. So it's a good time to get out. I know it's hot and muggy, and we're getting these pop-up showers, but the good thing about that is that the golf course is not as crowded as it usually is. So you can get out here and zip around, whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon.
Dude, $39 with aeration is a steal. Anybody that is maybe never played Stono, I mean, it's not going to be what it generally is, but you get out there for under $40 and you'll be back. I assure you of that.
And your score will be better. It's a guarantee. I mean, I will lock it in now. Your score will be better.
And if it's worse, that's
your
it.
problem.
It's over. Even lessons from Scott aren't going to save you on that one. So you could try it, but maybe
well,
not.
it's nice on the air raid greens. I played Monday, and anytime you play on punch greens, and it's just automatic 2-putt. So man, that takes a lot of pressure off the putter. When if that first one doesn't go in, the next one's good.
Just hit the green, man.
I was
50 feet away from the pin. Just hit the green.
Yeah, I was several under par through the front nine. I was thinking, man, I game's feeling pretty good, and I realized, all right, let's not get too far ahead of yourself here. You're not having to make those testy 4-footers.
I was about to say, don't jinx it, Scotty. Don't jinx it now. At the 3M Open, Scott Stallings is leading, and the tournament is suspended right now in the first round due to some weather. But that's not. We're talking about Colin Morikawa because he won the Open Championship last week. It was a great tournament. It was a great tournament. They had beautiful beautiful weather. I know it had some breezy conditions out there, but that's the Open. You'd expect it to be worse than it was. But he was something. He was some kind of special, man. And Jordan Spieth, I think, did everything he possibly could do. And I think, as Darren alluded to on Monday, Colin Morikawa basically beat him in his own game. And golf is much like every other sport. I would consider it more similar to baseball at times when it comes to historical facts, especially the youth in the sport. And you bring the second major championship in for Colin Morikawa, and you start bringing up all these incredible historical references, Tiger Woods and all these other great golfers we've seen over time, and what this means and where he fits and all those type things. So I don't know how you assess it, but it was something special. This kid is really, really good.
He is the real deal, and that was some proper golf that he played all weekend long, but especially on Sunday to come out, have a bogey-free 66, I believe it was. Since the year 2000, there have only been 3 instances in a major championship win where the winner has gone out to shoot a bogey-free 66 and win. That was 2012. Rory did that at the Ocean Course in the PGA Championship. Colin Morikawa did it a year ago at TPC Harding Park in the PGA Championship. And then Colin Morikawa did it again this past weekend at the Open Championship. So it really was impressive. He now, in his 2 major championship wins, as I said, have had these bogey-free rounds. He's come from behind in both major championship wins. He joins 2 other players to have come from behind 2 major championship wins before the age of 25. Those are Bobby Jones and Jack Nicklaus. He is the youngest player to come from behind to win the Open Championships. Seve Ballesteros did that in 1979, and he joins Tiger as the only player to have won both the PGA Championship and the Open Championship before the age of 25. It's really he also is the first player since, I believe, Ben Curtis did it, which ironically also at Royal St. George's, to win the Open Championship in their first start. He's the first player ever to win 2 majors in his first start in each major. So last year when he won the PGA Championship, that was the first time he'd ever played in the PGA Championship. He won. Open Championship this year, his first appearance ever, he won. He's the only player to ever do that. When he won last year at Harding Park at the PGA Championship, I remember saying, watch out for this guy. He's going to be a household name, maybe even before he won. I know I've been very privy to him, even back in his days at Cal. What a great amateur he was and college player. And it's just hard to believe in basically like 3 years, the guy is now in a realistic position to be number 1 in the world, has 2 major championships and just 8 major championship starts. I mean, the stats, there's a lot of historical stuff going on with Colin Morikawa, and I love watching him play golf. Like I said, it's just, to me, that is proper golf. That's not the bomb and gouge game that is becoming so prevalent on the PGA Tour right now. Colin does not hit the ball short, but he's not the longest by any means. But he is a ball striking machine. He can hit the ball through certain windows. He can hit every shot in the bag. And to me, that's so much more enjoyable to watch that, especially at a venue like Royal St. George's, in a venue like the Open Championship, to watch a guy really golf his ball. Same with Jordan Spieth, more so than a DeChambeau or even somebody, we get lulled to sleep by Dustin Johnson, even Rory McIlroy, these guys that are hitting the ball a long way and are not taking the artistry out of the game, so to speak. Speaking of Morikawa, he's on track to have the best strokes gained approach season other than Tiger Woods ever in the history of the stat. The stat began back in 2004. And Tiger Woods has the highest strokes gained approach seasons ever. In 2006, Tiger gained over 2 strokes on the field in approach. That's absurdly good. 2007, he was .1653 strokes gained approach. 2013, he was plus 1.533. And right now, Colin Morikawa, if the season ended today, he is gaining on the field in strokes gained approach plus 1.502. That would be the 4th best ever in that statistic. So that shows you how great of an iron player that he is. His putter has been his downfall, but when he plays well, his putter is an asset. It was this past weekend. He putted really well. He had some opportunities there on Sunday to maybe miss a couple nervy putts to let the crowd or let the field back into it. And he didn't do it. He hammered him home right in the middle. It's tough to say, and I've said it before, of what the career arc for someone like this is. He's so young. He's already got 2 major championships. I mean, at this point in his career, Rory McIlroy had 4 major championships, I believe, by 24, 25 years old. And we're thinking, gosh, Rory's going to win 10, 12 majors. Well, Rory hasn't won a major since. So
what's the difference? How do you compare these two at this age?
I think they're very comparable at this age. Okay. It's just a matter of how you handle the success and the fame and the pressure moving forward. Colin Morikawa, he just has this feel of a seasoned vet, but as you go on in golf, there's gonna be a lot of scar tissue to build up. He has come from behind and won both of these great major opportunities that he's had. He's had top finishes in other majors, but the 2 where he had the most realistic opportunities, he won. So going forward, how's he going to handle a situation where maybe he's in the lead on a Sunday at a major and he doesn't win, or he's right there close, has a poor Sunday like we saw out of Louis Oosthuizen and fall down the leaderboard a little bit? How do you handle that? How do you continue to develop as that scar tissue builds? Padraig Harrington had a quote that says, where he said that experience is overrated and innocence is underrated. And I think that's very true in the game of golf. We see these guys, they're so talented and so young, and they just skyrocket to the top. And it's how can you continue to grow from there? And I think what we've seen with Rory is just the bumps in the road. They've not derailed Rory, but they've flattened that arc, so to speak. And we so want to see him get it back. But it's as beautiful of a game as golf is, it can be very cruel as well. So
yeah.
So I hope that Colin continues to play great. There was another
but by the way, he has won the most money this year, almost $7 million.
Here was a stat. This is actually, bear with me. This was on, I think
do you work or do you just write up just
So here's the 2.
What do you do?
So there are speaking of money, and this goes off.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going to the Tiger effect, aren't you? And the stat that I saw a couple days ago.
No, I didn't see that stat. You'll have to fill me in on that one. But this one was Jon Rahm made more money in 4 major starts this year. He made 3 $1.6 million just in the 4 majors. Now, he was top 8, I think, in every major championship. He played extremely well with his win at the U.S. Open. That is more money than Lee Trevino made in his entire career. Lee Trevino made $3.478 million in 481 career starts. That included 29 wins and 6 major championships.
How much money did he make in Happy Gilmore?
Probably a pretty good chunk of those career earnings right there.
So that falls right in line though with the Tiger effect, because what Tiger did by making this sport so uber relevant was he just shot up the prize purses. So there was a stat that I saw, and I'm not going to have it directly correct, so I'll be vague. But Tiger in his heyday was one of very few, if not the only, at like the million or 2 million earning mark, based like on an average early on his career. Now, when you're getting down to guys who might lose their tour card, that's how far down you're going with guys who are making into 7 figures on the year.
That's incredible.
Losing the tour card and they're still making $1 million.
That's how much money is out there on the tour right now. That they're starting to approach the point where you are in that realm of you can lose your tour card because you haven't won enough, and you're still making some money.
So right now in pure money, they don't go off of money anymore on the PGA Tour. It's FedEx Cup points, but 114th on the money list is the first player that is less than $1 million. That's Francesco Molinari at $996,000. So there are 113 players
this year alone that have made more than $1 million on the golf course. Right now, the cutoff for FedEx Cup points would be 125. That's Patrick Rogers. He could be in a different position on the FedEx Cup, but he still made $873,000. I mean, let's say you have a very run-of-the-mill season. Webb Simpson, for example, 50th in money this season, $2.2 million. It's wild. That is the Tiger effect, though. And that's why. And Brooks Koepka was exactly right in saying, in terms of this money that they're going to give for moving the needle on tour, the Tiger needs a cut of that money every year, because he has moved the needle. Mm-hmm. The last thing,
name, image, and likeness.
That's right. Did y'all see? This is off of golf, but is it true, the quote that I saw, that the Alabama quarterback Saban said he's making close to 7 figures?
Nobody knows the truth there. Yeah. So it could be a Saban pitch to who knows who else. Who knows? I mean, the reality is he's going to make money if he chooses to go that route, whether it's 7 figures or not. He'll be able to make some money.
Hey, my name, image, and likeness is available for anyone out there listening.
Well, Darren just put it up on the screen. DJ Uyunglele has signed a deal with Bojangles.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, better not eat a Yuva. Mike Yuva will be coming for. There'll be lawsuits flying all over the state.
It wasn't in the promo shoot. I zoomed in and everything because he's sitting there with a whole bunch of Bojangles boxes, and I was hoping that there was going to be a Yuva in there, but no.
That would be not good. So Morikawa Lee is the leader in the FedEx Cup points, right? He's the money leader and he's the points leader. And Spieth, I think, is actually right behind him. By the way, John Rahm has 12 top 10s this year. For anybody that missed that, it's amazing.
Yeah, John Rahm, I think he's definitely the player of the year this year.
Over Morikawa.
Oh gosh,
over Morikawa.
That's going to be a great debate, actually. And to Morikawa, the stat that I found earlier that I wanted to mention, that there are only 2 players in the last 100 years to win their second major in fewer than 8 starts. It's taken 8 starts for Morikawa to win 2 majors. It was Walter Hagen and Gene Sarazen. Gene Sarazen, he hit the shot heard around the world at Augusta National. He has a career Grand Slam. Walter Hagen won 11 majors. So that is quite the company there. And in terms of career arc, really, and I spoke last week to how no one has really stepped on the gas pedal, so to speak, and dominated the 7 majors in a 1-year span due to COVID. But I think Morikawa put the exclamation point on that point that we kept talking about during COVID is who's going to get hot and take advantage of this really abbreviated schedule and playing 7 majors in less than 1 year. Colin Morikawa won the first one at the PGA, and then he bookended it with the Open Championship this last weekend. Now we won't have another major championship till the Masters in April, but really I think he has put the stamp on the last year and what was such a huge topic. And yeah, I think that's going to be a great debate that we'll be able to have in about a month's time as who the player of the year is on the PGA Tour, because I think, between Morikawa and Rahm, 2 great seasons. I think Rahm had a better overall in the majors, being top 10 in every one. But gosh, just great golf for sure.
Well, that's true. I mean, Morikawa's he's top 10 in 3 straight. I think he was 17th or 18th in the Masters, but he's got 2 wins in the actual season, and John has 1. They both have a major. They're right there. It's neck and neck. We'll see. Scott, we got to let you run on that note, but my friend, StonoFerryGolf.com to book those tee times, $39 right now. Remember, they've aerated, but it's as we'll say it this way, it's healing up nicely. It's not going to affect your game negatively. It'll affect it positively. So you can play $39 golf. Are you kidding me? It's Stono Ferry. It's the steal of all steals. And you could even take a plug home if you'd like, if there's one lying around out there. StonoFerryGolf.com. Also, you can book tee times with Scott Glaze. Great shirt, great hair, look good, man. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you
later.
Scott Glaze in Hollywood, the original Hollywood, the real Hollywood,
the real one.
They should create their own
marketing
walk of fame with the stars, like walking into the clubhouse.
Walk to the first tee or something.
Yeah, why not? It's Hollywood. We'll have to talk to him about that. Thanks to Cory McCartney, Roger Hoover, and Scott Glaze, and Darren Goldwater, and all of you.
Thank you.
We'll recap much more on the ACC kickoff tomorrow. We'll also get back into Media Day stuff, clearly monitoring the Oklahoma-Texas situation. We got the Olympics starting they've already started. Opening ceremonies are tomorrow. We got baseball stuff to get into. We got a big day planned. It's another big day. And it's the end of the work week. Have a great Thursday at the Dog and Duck. We'll see you tomorrow on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.